Well, if you watched the intro and made it this far, I'm proud of you. That means that you've decided to take this journey with me. So let's get cracking. First thing I'm going to do is I've installed a fresh install of User Spice. This is 4.2.0 final release. Just downloaded it right off my own website and installed it. And so let's say one of the things I said, the first thing I said I wanted to be able to do is turn the feature on and off. So I would like the option to do that in here. And so let's go ahead and localhost phpMyAdmin. We'll go to the messaging database, and I've got this table here called user settings, or just settings, and I've got some different things in here. There's a lot of 1-0 type things, require captcha, require number. So I'm going to go to the structure, and I'm not even sure that I'm going to use these two features, but I'm going to go ahead and add two columns. And the first one I'm going to put is, we'll call it messaging, and we will give that an int of 1, which means it'll be one character long, a 1 or 0, and then I'm going to call it snooping, which is my way of saying that we want to be able to see whether or not somebody has read something. So basically, if you look at my table now, you'll see that I have all the other settings that we've always had, but I also have messaging and snooping, and what we want to be able to do is to turn those things on and off based on whether or not they're selected in the control panel. So I've turned them on by default, and we're going to go into the code, and let's go to the admin panel. So that is admin.php, and you'll see one thing I like to do. I'm not a big fan of reinventing the wheel, so if I come in here to localhost message, and I snap that over here, and I come to my own little admin dashboard, I'm just going to look at the first thing that you can enable and disable, and that's reCAPTCHA. So basically what I'm going to do is take that same feature, and let's find it. And I know this is really repetitive code. I have automated ways of doing this now, but we're going to go ahead and just keep it in the overall theme of the way we're doing everything else in User Spice. So let's see here. Let's find the reCAPTCHA. So site name reCAPTCHA. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it twice. And we're going to put messaging option and snooping option. Now, maybe what we do, I'll tell you what, I don't even have an idea of how I'm going to do the snooping thing, so let's go ahead and we'll kill that out of here. I guess we can just, I can hit control, maybe? Let's see, control, nope. Okay, let's just go ahead and delete it. So I have the messaging option here. We'll start with that. And I'm going to say enable messaging. And you see I got an extra space in there. messaging. Okay, so, and I'm going to give this, we're going to put messaging, and I'm going to call this messaging, which I'm not using any JavaScript, so this isn't really that important, but messaging, and we're going to give the field a thing of messaging. Now, one thing I like to do at this is a good time to tell you about this. I like to make sure that my column names are exactly the same as my ID. So if I have messaging here, then you better believe I'm going to have messaging here, messaging here, messaging here. And the main reason for doing that is that I don't want to constantly have to go back and look at my columns. So let me just show you what's going on here. So at the top of the page, we are doing a query of the settings table. And so basically what I'm having it do is looking at settings, and then this is going to be messaging. So I'm going to do one of my fancy things. I'm going to control click. Oop. Okay, so if settings messaging equals 1, then that option is going to be pre-selected, and it's going to put enabled. And if it is 0, then it is going to pre-echo out disabled. So let's take a look at that. That should already be working. So if we come over here and refresh this page, you're going to see that enable messaging, which I guess maybe I should just even say messaging. Let's look up here. I hate when it snaps around there, so we'll just so messaging, let's just say messaging. I don't know. Yeah, we'll say messaging. I'm fine with that. So messaging, if I refresh this, you'll see that because the database has 1 in there, then by default it's reading the database and echoing out messaging. So if I come in here to this and I change this to 0, then when I refresh the page, this is going to be disabled. And so what you can see here is if settings messaging, which is a query that's already built in. The settings query is built into every page. So if messaging has a 1 in it, then we're going to echo out this. We're going to echo out enabled. If not, then we're going to echo out disabled. Now I could put three things there, but I don't really care. That doesn't really ever seem to be a problem with the types of things that we're doing. So I like to. I don't know. It's just a preference. You can complain in the comments about it. So now the next thing we're going to do is we need to be able to update that in the database. And again, I am lazy. So I'm going to look at reCAPTCHA, and I'm going to see that if settings reCAPTCHA does not equal what's in the post, then get what's in the post and update it. And so I'm going to walk through this thing of code with you real quick. So basically what I want to know. So we're going to step up to the top. This settings query is say, give me everything from settings. Settings queue equals select star from settings. And then give me first because there's only 1 row in the settings table. And so what it's doing here is it's saying if whatever you had in that table in the database does not match what was in the form that they just submitted, then take what's in the form, make an array out of it, and update the database with that. And so we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to come in here, and this should all be messaging. So I'm going to control click like crazy around here. And you can see why it makes sense to use the same exact term for every little thing. So now I can just change all this to messaging. So if the settings messaging does not equal the post messaging, then the messaging variable equals whatever was pulled in from the post, and then create an array and update that form, update that database. So let's take a look here. Now the question is, can we save it? So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to snap this back to the right here, and we're going to refresh the page. And so right now you can see in the database that messaging is 0, and this thing is correctly showing us that messaging is disabled. So if I change that to enabled and I save these settings, if all goes well, when I refresh the page, I'm going to see that messaging is enabled and the database shows me that it's enabled. And the same thing should happen if I come back here to disabled. Now the database should show 0. Oh, hold on. Did I mess up? Did you catch my first bug? Let's see. Oh, it didn't. So let's see what happened here. So messaging is still showing enabled. Let's look at this. See what we broke. Maybe I just didn't submit the form. It's hard to do it as on a small screen. So messaging is enabled. We're going to change it to disabled. We're going to come down here and hit save settings, and that should turn to a 0. Let's see what happens. Come back here, and it's 0. Okay, so I just didn't submit the form last time. You guys saw that. You're probably yelling at the monitors. But basically what that did is in 8.5 minutes, that allowed us to add a feature to turn messaging on and off. And then basically all we have to do, oh, what did I do there? There we go. All I have to do is anywhere in the project, I can write if, I don't know what thing there, I can write if settings messaging equals 1, then perform this, do something, then perform this messaging feature. And so basically what I'm going to be doing is wrapping the rest of these things that we do in this thing here and say only if settings is 1, then go ahead and enable this messaging feature. So that'll make a lot more sense as we went on, but the first thing you've done is learned how to create a feature that can be turned on and off, and how to use a drop-down box to change the database to create that function. So anyway, hope you learned something, and hope you'll come back to the next video.